know, what have you? How has it evolved? What changes have you made?
Well, we're releasing issue 1.5, and what happened was we did an issue 0 to introduce the first issue, and the issue 0 did so well. And then we did put the issue 1 out. Issue 1 was good, was received really well. And then my editor, Edgardo Morando Rodriguez, says, yo, you know what? We should do an introductory issue in between each major issue release. So we came up with 1.5. Issue 1.5 is introducing the next superhero in the universe. Because I don't want people to get the misconception that I'm doing a comic book, it's going to be 1,000 issues of my boring ass. No, DMC is just the first superhero introduced to you in this universe. So by issue 20, you might not even like me no more. You might like the new villain, you might like the new superhero. So we're going to do issue 1, issue 0, issue 1. Issue 1.5, introduce a new character. Issue 2. Issue 2.5, introduce a new character. And I think it makes people part of the creative process, and at the same time, it's anticipation.
Right.
Oh, 2.5 is coming out. No, I wonder what's coming next.
So you have a foster child in this, is that?
Yes.
Right. What made you do that? I mean, I know you have some personal.
Yeah. Well, I'm a foster kid. Right. But now, we didn't sit down and say the next issue, the next hero is going to be a foster kid. We did issue 1, and then we looked at issue 1 and said, who should the next character be? Could have been a villain.
Right.
But Ed was like, yo, I think we should make Lax 6 the young girl who knows what's up with DMC. She knows there's other superheroes running around, but she knows DMC's the superhero for the people.
Right.
All the other superheroes got ulterior motives. You know, one superhero's like, I'll defend you, you gotta pay me.
Right.
Other superhero, I only defend the black people, like that.
Right.
So Lax 6 is in tune with DMC. She's a young girl, but she's also inspired by him.
Right.
So Ed was like, yo, let's make Lax 6 the next superhero. She just happens to be a foster kid.
Right.
And what's good about that is, you walk down the street, I would think 1 out of every 30 kids, might be less, is a foster kid or adopted.
Right.
50% of people in America have something to do with foster care and adoption. Whether it was, you know, in the 40s and 50s when they shipped orphans down south, whether it's through your family, your uncle or somebody who couldn't have kids. So a foster kid in every city in America is a community that exists among our young people. I found out later that in Hollis, Queens is an area where foster kids are placed.
Wow.
And I just happen to be a foster kid from Hollis, Queens.
That's crazy. How involved are you in the creative process?
The creative process is 100% me, Ed, and Riggs Morales. Big shout out to Riggs. We sit in the room, come up with the stories, come up with the characters. Then the whole purpose of me creating this comic book is to give every writer, every colorist, every inker, every pencilist, every designer, every graffiti artist, everything that goes into the process of creating a comic book.
Right.
We create the stories and the characters, but then we let the people who do those specific skills do the work to create the comic book. So there's a guy 40, 50 years old who should have drew for Marvel and DC. Never got the chance. He's gonna draw for me. There's a kid right here in Staten Island or in Brooklyn, you know, 17, 18, 19, 12, who's amazing. He or she is gonna, there's women, anchors, writers. We got Amy Chu writing for us. So we want the DMC universe creatively to be reflective of the universe that we actually live in.
Definitely. How do you feel about the diversity and, you know, we've talked about this, but in comics in general, you know, we've seen like the Human Torch.
Black. Well, a lot of times it's a good thing, but a lot of times it's forced.
Right.
Or even if it ain't forced, they do it and then they say, look at what we just did.
Right.
Just let it be.
Right.
Just let it be. You know, it's not a big deal that, you know, Eminem is one of the greatest MCs ever and he's white.
Right.
Just like before Eminem, it was the Beastie Boys. The Beastie Boys was well respected in hip hop, because they were white MCs not trying to be black MCs.
Right.
They didn't rap Adidas and Old English and gold chains and fedoras and Kangol.
Right. Yeah,
They were white kids from the city that talked about what white kids from the city talk about. So when we went down south in the first couple of shows of the Raising Hell tour, and by the way, big shout out to Dr. Dre from Your MTV Raps, because he was the original Beastie Boy DJ. He had to leave the road to go start MTV Raps with Ed Lover.
Wow.
So they didn't have a DJ. Hurricane was our security.
Yeah.
Jay was like, yo, Kane's an MC, but he could DJ. That's how that went down.
Okay.
But when we was in places like the Black Deep South, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, I'm talking about a number of black people from the South. When the Beastie Boys would open, we sitting there waiting to hear. You know, we kind of scared to look, but we would hear, real recognize real. So the diversity doesn't need to just be done in movies and comic books. Diversity needs to be done in all the real life areas, businesses, teaching, commerce, everything that is essential to the survival of the human race. We need that diversity to be shown. We need to do what Steven Tyler did in the Walk This Way video, bust down those walls of separation. It's a good thing that is happening in comic books, but even Ed, when we created this comic book, we was like, him and Riggs, actually a couple of years ago, did a art exhibit of all the great black superheroes.
Yeah, from Marvel.
Color of
Marvelous Color.
Marvelous Color.
Right,
Yeah.
and that thing was, let's showcase all the, the superheroes of color.
Yeah.
And then they was like, man, wish we had a, hero. Here comes DMC. I meet Riggs, and then he brings in here. Just the fact that I happen to just be black is cool.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a thing where it was. And another thing, we wasn't looking to create a black hip hop superhero. We're looking to create superheroes everybody could look up to and relate to.
Yeah.
So the diversity thing is a good thing, even when it is forced, but it shouldn't have to be forced, or even when it's done, it shouldn't have to be a badge. Look at what we did. We live in a diverse world anyway.
Right. But for us, it's organic. We've been saying that from the beginning.
It's organic.
We grew up in New York City, and we grew up with a diverse group of friends.
Yeah,
Latin, black, Asian.
I had white people living in Hollis. Danny White Boy rhymed about him on the Raising Hell album. He's a white guy that never left Hollis.
Right.
So it's real.
So I'm gonna wrap up, but while I got you, you mentioned Dr. Dre, and it automatically sparked the movie Straight Outta Compton.
Right, exactly.
I mean, Run DMC is one of my favorite groups. I know y'all did Tougher Than Leather and other
Right.
Crush
But the
Groove
Run
and all
DMC
that.
biopic.
But yeah, what are your thoughts on something like that?
Well, me personally, this is just me personally. I wouldn't want to do a Run DMC movie, and people always say, why? Because you already got an NWA and a Biggie movie. My hip hop is not doing what everybody else did. Like when we came along, he's using James Brown, they using funk. Let's be different and use rock. It wasn't until we're gonna make rock records and become rock stars and rich and famous. Me personally though, I'm probably 35% into the development of putting my life story on Broadway.
Oh, wow.
And the story won't be the Run DMC story.
Okay.
It'll be the story about the two people who made it possible. The story about the little girl that gave this baby up for adoption and the other family that took him.
Okay.
Not knowing those two instances would change the world.
Wow, that's
Because I
incredible.
think, for me personally, the DMC story. Put me down and I'm the king of rock.
Right.
I'm 51 years old. I started in hip hop at 18. So for 30-something years, I thought my story started in Hollis.
Right.
There's another story before the Run DMC story that made that story possible.
Right.
That's what I want to tell you.
That's interesting. Scarface, he said almost the same thing. Like, almost first of all, he said, I don't want to bite.
We hip hop. We don't tell the same stories.
Yeah.
I don't need to do it. The next hip hop movie is not special now. if you're gonna tell a hip hop movie, it don't even need to be about a rapper.
Right.
Let's
Right.
talk about a guy that saw his brother become an executive and
Right.
still work at UPS.
Right.
Real life story.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
It's not, see, I love Face.
Yeah.
That's why it's real.
Face is real. Face is real.
It's real. You know what I'm saying?
All right, well, appreciate your time.
Thank
as
you.
Always.
I appreciate you
Yes,
as
sir.
always. Without you,
Congratulations.
we don't get heard anymore.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, we good.